Thank you guys so much for coming for our August event. I am so excited to have Deborah here. She's been a trailblazer in so many different ways, and when you think champion of women, like there should be your face in a dictionary for the various things that you've done. So it is an absolute pleasure to introduce Deborah Jackson, who is the founder and CEO of Plum. But before she started Plum, so we're going to go back in time and get up to where she is now and the really amazing things she's about to do. And so one of the things I always like to start with is, you know, when you were in college and did you was Wall Street and like post business school, was that what you were thinking? What was the path? Yeah, we go way back. We go way back.
So when I was in college, I was a bit of a hippie. Because I'm a little older, right? But I was in that age group where I wore tie-dye t-shirts and bell-bottom blue jeans and an Indian headband. Where that was,
I know, right?
That was what we did back in the day, and dorm rooms just became co-ed, so there was a lot of sleeping around, a lot of marijuana going. I think it was a much lower grade than what I hear is out there today. And we were fighting the Vietnam War. So we skipped classes and we went to Washington, D.C., and we had signs protesting the war, and we thought we could change Washington, and in fact we did. And we fought for things like the Equal Rights Amendment, and the women's movement was just sort of coming back. So I was not focusing on my career or anything like that. I was a little bit of a rebel.
You still are. I mean, you kind of
I dress a little bit better, though.
And so, what was your major undergrad? I always find that interesting.
It was a major called Consumer Economics, which was really a multidisciplinary social science. Well, there were economics, political science, sociology, just a mismatch.
And how does the hippie end up at Goldman Sachs?
So the hippie, well, so then I finished up with undergraduate school, and I pretty much packed up a suitcase. I had $50 to my name, and I went to school in Michigan, and I said, you know what, I'm not Michigan, I want to go east. And so I literally packed up and went to Cambridge. I had a friend in Cambridge, and I slept on her sofa and said, okay, I need to get a job. I want $50. So I got a job in Cambridge at a Chinese restaurant and worked for 3 or 4 months and ate Chinese food every night. And eventually, I knew nobody really, but I managed to get a job with the city of Cambridge. And I was a budget consultant and did this job for a while. I'm trying to think back to these things. Actually, it's connected.
Right?
But so I took this job and with the city of Cambridge, and then my boss said to me, who was the city manager, said, you know what, we're launching this new watchdog agency, and you would be great to run it. I said, yeah, I'm game. So I had my first real job out of college was as executive director to a newly formed government watchdog agency. So of course, I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what I was doing, but I would show up every day, and I found out my job was to find out where all the patronage was in the budget, like all the, how money was being wasted. So I thought, oh, I get this. And I was like on this rampage to find all the waste. So I would show up at meetings, and I was this little punk, and nobody took me seriously. But I'd go to all these meetings, and I would figure out stuff. And I'd go to my boss, guess what? There's this person and that person. This person doesn't even show up, and this person gets paid.
You have to be a professional tattletale.
I was a tattletale. That was my job. You paid me to do that. So I found out all these things, and my boss then took them on and went public and said we got to cut back the wage and all this stuff. So of course I was threatened. So I had people coming after me then, and I was a little punk out of school, and I had people coming after me saying, keep your mouth shut. If you ever want to get a job in Massachusetts, keep your mouth shut. And stuff like that happening. And I was like, I don't quite know how to handle this, but I just sort of ignored it. And then eventually got a job in the city of Boston, helping them do a budget around desegregation and all kinds of cool stuff. But I really had no idea what I was doing. And so I thought, after 5 years, I said, I got to go to business school. I'm like way over my head. I don't have the proper skills, and I need to beef up what I know. So I went to Columbia Business School, and in business school, you know, I worked in the public sector, and I was a bit of a rebel. Oh my gosh, I had red glasses when I went to business school.
Which is now hit. Like, it's back to have that. Yeah.
It is not. I mean, it's like kind of weak, but it fit with me. So anyway, so I went to business school, and the whole time there, I was like, even my professors I was willing to now telling me, you're a bit of a radical at it. And I was always like, I am not going into business. I just want the training of business school. So of course, then I get near graduation, and I think, okay, now I have to make a big decision. Am I going back to work for the government? Should I be not-for-profit? What should I do? And I interviewed for a gazillion jobs and got a bunch of offers, and just kept turning them down, saying, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I can't imagine that. And so I was the only person graduating from my Columbia Business School class who did not have a job because I turned them all down. Everyone, I remember throwing this like wacky graduation party. And all my...
Never throws good parties. You always seem to know.
Well, I was in this student rental, and it didn't matter if we trashed it. So I had this graduation party. Everyone was like, oh, I'm going to Merrill Lynch, or going to Bain, I'm going to, whatever company. And I didn't have a job, so I said, okay, well, I'll come into place at the right time. And so then I spent a couple of months, again, looking at jobs, and my fiance was in Boston, so I looked in Boston. And I finally thought, I'm never going to take a job because there's nothing I want to do. And so then I thought, well, okay, maybe I could go to investment banking, but I could do like public sector stuff. That would be okay. Like I would never be around building nuclear power plants, but I could be around like helping not-for-profits and governments and education. That's what I'll do. So I finally like figured out, okay, I could go to like a business, but I could do what I cared about. And so I started applying for jobs, and I got hired at Goldman.
Into which group?
Into municipal finance.
Ah, which actually is that, really. Which it is. Helping governments, like local and
And hospitals.
Yeah, infrastructure and things like that.
Assigned to the healthcare group. And so I worked a lot in healthcare finance.
So that was what? It was
1980.
So how many women, because Goldman was a partnership, private partnership with the Plum.
Private partnership.
How many women were in Goldman Sachs in 1980, in the 80s?
In the 80s. I knew all of them, so that tells you something. I knew the handful of us that were there. Janet Hansen was there.
And Janet Hansen is the founder of 85 Rods, which has now been sold to Sally Krawcheck and is called Elevate, which I think is in this body, right? Yeah.
So there were probably like 30 women I knew around my circle. And that was back in the day before we had cell phones and computers and the internet. So we would see each other in the hall and we'd say, oh, let's have lunch. We'd call up on the phone and look in our binders and find a date and pencil it in. And then like a month later we'd go to lunch. And we'd have this magnificent lunch, talk about the world, our families, everything. And then we'd go back to our day jobs, and we wouldn't see each other for a month. So when I think about what happens today and how we can meet tomorrow, send an email, set up coffee, form a Google group.
And you get annoyed when you don't hear back from somebody in like an hour? What the heck?
There's something that is exploding, and it's this ability for women to connect in such a big way that could never happen before, and it is the most powerful, amazing thing going on.
So you were there for 10 years.
So I was there for 10 years.
And then what was your impetus for wanting to leave?
So this is so good, no one ever asked me.
And these are the things that like people want to know because, yeah.
So here I was.
Well, I think I want to know.
Yeah, so here I was at Goldman, kind of doing quite well. I joined at a time that the firm was exploding. The first week that I was there, I was working on the largest healthcare transaction we were doing at the time. It's like $200 million. And it was the vice president and me. I started Monday, I was on the plane Thursday going to them. It was a big deal. It was really freaking fun. It was so heady. It was like jetting around, like got my business cards.
The power suit.
I navy blue power suit with the, back then we
the bows.
Like, it's embarrassing to say. But anyway, so it was a really exciting time. And so I did a lot of great deals. We were vetting new products, doing financing, worked like a dog. And had my first child, came back from maternity leave, and I remember the partners calling me in and saying, I've been waiting for you to come back because we want you to do a new job. I said, oh really? What's that? And he said, well, we're exploding, we're growing, nobody's managing anything around here. We need someone to help us get this whole place under control. And I thought, okay. And I said, you're senior enough, you're respected, you have the right, you're it. So do it for a year. We only want you to set it up and get it going because you're too valuable with your clients. So get it set up. And you can think about it overnight, come and tell us in the morning. Because of course I went, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to do that. I had no choice. So I went back, and what that meant is for a year I managed the department. And I would go to these conventions, and I would be like playing with all the gadgets. The first versions of cell phones, and I just thought this is the coolest thing. It's going to change the world. I had no idea how, but I loved it. And then I thought, okay, so I did my job, different jobs, raised my daughters, tried to stay out of trouble, all of that. And then got to a point where I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm just done with Wall Street. 21 years, like, okay. Because I wasn't learning anything, and it was just annoying, completely annoying. So I thought, okay, I am done. So retired from Wall Street, and took this year of like unwinding and getting rid of my clients, and then all of a sudden I hit a wall. It's like, oh, who am I? What am I? Like I had intensely worked for so long on Wall Street. That was my identity. It's how I made my money. And then I was like, okay. And I had a little bit of an identity crisis. Like I felt really useless, really unproductive. And I was, spending more time with my kids. But of course, my two daughters had no interest in hanging out with me at that point. They were like, Mom, would you go back to work? Get out of here. So I kind of stumbled for a few years there. And when I decided, okay, well, I guess I like technology. And I had made a couple of investments in companies when I was on Wall Street. So I thought, I think I'll do that more because I like that and I like innovation. So I started to find and invest in female-founded companies. And I thought, well, I don't really quite know what I'm doing, so maybe I should join a group and do it with some other people. So I joined Golden Seeds and was a member of that for a couple of years, and I was on the screening committee for all the technology companies, and that was pretty cool. But then I thought, okay, I felt like I wanted to do more. And I thought, when you invest in companies, you're on the sidelines. Maybe you mentor, but you really kind of over here. And I thought, I need to do something more. This isn't going to work, just for me being on the sidelines. So I thought, okay, I'll found a company. And I remember going home one day. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I found a company. And I went home to my husband, and he's a Jim. I said, I figured out what I'm doing next. And he said, oh, really? What's that? I said, I found a company. And he said to me, cool. What? And what? I really don't know. I honestly don't know, but I know what I care about, which is women entrepreneurs, getting more women to found companies, getting women to build and use technology, because that is the future, and getting capital to great female-founded companies. That was just all I cared about, really, so it was very clear to me. And I thought, well, if I just get out there in the river, I can find the right opportunities. And there's something about you can't do it part-time, you can't do it here, you can't do that. You have to go jump off the high dive and do it. So I
You're actually the third speaker that said that. Like, one of them was like, just go start something. Go start it.
Yeah.
Like, the beginning of just starting something helps. Then go figure out, because what you start isn't going to be what, ultimately becomes.
Yeah, so you have to just do it. And so I said, okay, I'm nothing to lose at this point. I'll just do it. So I got out there and, for the first year, tried a bunch of not tried, but did a bunch of things that kind of set us up to do what we're doing now. So we had the first all-female hackathon, meeting these amazing women who code, and they were all complaining that they didn't want to go to the kind of Red Bull hoodie hackathons. They wanted to do something that smelled like a gym. And they're hitting on us anyway, so we wanted to do something else. So I hosted the first hackathon 3 summers ago. It changed my life to see what women build when they have the tools and technology. These 18 women gave up their weekend, started on a Friday night at 10 p.m., decided that they would build an interactive game to teach the world about sex trafficking. No one had a background in that. They just took on a massive world problem, and they built an entire game that you can play a billion ways. It's decision tree theory, and I witnessed the whole thing. And I always thought, if you see women like with schools or on charities, if they come together, it's amazing what they do. And I thought, what if you enjoy technology? What will women build? And I saw it. And it really changed my life. 4 p.m. on Sunday, this thing went live. Fast Company covered it, which was really great. And so I did things like that, and I co-founded a couple of other women friends. And look at these accelerators. There's no women participating. Let's find one for women building mobile tech. We did that. So I was like doing these various things, sort of one-off things, and then I thought, okay, now I need to do what I advise everyone. You need to have a business revenue model. But I need a business model here. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not changing anything I care about. I still care about these things. So what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I understand e-commerce. We all understand e-commerce. You sell things, you get money. So I thought, okay, well, we're not going to create anything. But what we can do, all these great women entrepreneurs that have products, and they need more sales. So if we profile them and amplify the message and get them out there and tell their story, they'll get more sales. And we can take a little piece of whatever more they get. So we did e-commerce for over a year, made pretty good money at it, profiled over 100 female-founded companies, and it was just fabulous. Like, every woman was just more inspiring than the next one. Like, oh, this woman is amazing. Look at what she's doing. I look at her company. And then we made another one. It's like, oh, we fell in love. Every day it's like, oh, look at all these women. There were over 100. So it was pretty amazing because no one ever asked those women their story. They built great companies. They had eco-friendly products. They had a point of view. They were creating different cultures, and no one ever asked them anything. So that was why they loved us. We got them a few more sales, but really we told their story. So we did that, and I thought, okay, this is good. But, I never, I have this, I want to get more capital to female-founded companies. And e-commerce is not, it helps sales, but I was wrestling with this whole thing, how do we get more money to great companies? And, of course, watching technology and Indiegogo and Kickstarter, okay, and then doing research on those platforms and seeing they're cool, but, basically, if they're successful, men make all the money off what women are doing. And number two, a lot of the campaigns on there are kind of really gross, blow them up, beat them up, sexist things with derogatory things about women. So I thought, okay, we should just do it differently. And so we launched, 18 months ago, we launched a version of crowdfunding for women entrepreneurs. Okay, so that's been good. That's a nice revenue stream as well. And then I thought, okay, well, that's cool, but if you really want to change the game, it's not going to be a $30,000 thing here and there. And I'm, speaking on these panels and judging competitions, and I just kept seeing, these fabulous women entrepreneurs that were not getting funded, and it was heartbreaking. And seeing a lot of male-founded companies with less traction, less possibility. And, God was funding them like crazy. And so, it was kind of wrestling with that whole problem, thinking, well, what do we need to do about this? And we thought about a lot of versions, okay, maybe we should do equity crowdfunding, or maybe we should do a fund, or maybe we should do angel investing, or, all these different things that are out in the ecosystem. And really thinking about it, I just felt like, well, women aren't playing that way. Honestly, women are not. And being an angel investor and being part of Golden Seeds, that's a piece of what is out there and needs to be out there, but that's not how most women are going to play. Most women are not in a position to write big checks continually. Most women aren't in a position to lose money. Most women aren't in a position to wait 5 to 7 to 10 years to see if you get your money back. That's a very elite, rare, small group. So I'm thinking, okay, that's not the answer. The answer is not equity crowdfunding, because women don't have the behavior of going online and finding where they can park some money. They just don't do that. And so, wrestling with this problem, I met my now partner, Andrew Turner-Moffat, who had done all this research about women as investors. And she and I have been friends and talking about this problem. And all of a sudden, it's like the light bulb went off. Well, wait a minute. We can see all these great companies that need money. And she has the research and knows that actually
11.2 trillion in investable assets is not just influenced, but actually controlled by women, and is not being in financial advisors and all these different things that can just be doing something in the economy that is not making the kind of returns that it could.
Huge. I mean, so all of a sudden it was like, well, wait. The answer is not to push venture capital firms to hire more women or fund more companies. It's not going to happen. We can't really move the needle there. So what do we really need to do? We really need to get women to take that money they already have, and the research says they want to invest. They just don't have the right access the right way. So we were in a unofficially announced time where we're building what we're calling 1,000 Strong. And it's 1,000 women and men that support female-founded companies. And we're offering very specific, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting of finding the companies, vetting the companies, and presenting the companies in ways that women can invest with a whole different approach about how you do that, about how you get to know the companies, you learn from experts, why they're good companies, you learn about the domain, all within one night, because we know women are busy, so and so you learn all this, and then you can decide, the next week if you want to actually invest, and you can do it at a low price point, $5,000, be a loan structure, so it's not, you get a quicker return. So we have all these, we see the entire path and the vision, but it's very early, we're building it, sort of driving the plane as we're building the plane. But it'll be public in September, and we've had 5 or 6 small gatherings of women. We're doing some things in the West Coast, and it's multi-generational. It's not just for millennials.
We know women are starting businesses. How many people here own or started their own business? Half the women in this room are entrepreneurs, and the other half are thinking they might want to be entrepreneurs. So it's just one of those kind of things where, and this is a very well-educated, very sharp group. And, people they're not walking out with $1 million people throwing their investments at them. And some of the businesses in this room are going to be those kind of businesses, but they need to get the traction. So why isn't it that we're going to be the ones that do it? And that's the kind of thing of opening up that pipeline, that access, to get us understanding what does success look like, what is it that these professionals are looking for, so that we can start seeing that ourselves and looking for it, and then talking amongst each other. So, Deborah's kind of been at the forefront of this, as you can tell, from throughout many aspects of her life, but now she's trying to put something together that will actually allow us to have a vehicle to do something about it. So, I joined super early on, and I was just so excited. I tell people about it, they're like, what is this? And I was like, I know, you need to go to 1000strong.com. And it was ultimately now I'm working with them in tandem.
Working with us.
Because I just am so excited about what that means and what we can potentially do together. So, anybody that has questions I can happily answer. But I also want anybody that has questions about Deborah in general or about your experiences or something, I always love to take questions from the audience to have. When you have somebody of this magnitude that has done so many amazing things, take advantage of asking the question in this moment. So,
good question about the actual financing. So it's not a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, because that's just money going to maybe getting the product. Yep. It's not going to be equity, so it's going to be structured as a loan. And how does the structure of that financing work?
So the great thing about what we're doing is it's very custom made. So we can look at it, and this is the work I used to do when I was on Wall Street. So we'll look at a company, and if a company is in a position, does have some traction, can't be a very early stage company, but has revenues, and is in a position to pay back a loan over 2 to 3 years at like maybe a 2 times debt service coverage ratio. So you figure out like how much it would cost. So we're looking at a structure like that for certain companies. We're looking at a structure that may be a combination of debt and equity, and maybe you get some return, but then the money, the product converts into an equity piece if you want.
So it's company specific. It's going to be company. For this company, this is going to be the structure for that company. It's going to be this.
Yes. So we have some general parameters of what we think our members will want. And so we're now actually getting submissions for companies, and we're seeing if there's the match. So is there a company that really has the ability to pay back a loan in 2 years? We know they're out there, but we have to actually have them. Yeah. So it's that there's some people that have come forward and said, you know what, I want to do early stage investing, but I don't want to pick one company. I don't know how to pick the one, put my chin over here on this horse. So we're actually coming up with things like maybe it'll be a portfolio of 10 companies that we think are good. So it's not like a fund. Give us your money, we'll go spend it. This will be, you can take a small piece of this portfolio of these 10 companies, and you can know the companies, and you already are diversified for early
I think
stage.
that's great. Like having the early stage, because so what I've experienced with watching, it's getting over that hump of an initial investment and just getting the ability to take on what you want to do. That's great. And that would be presumably some piece of equity.
Yeah, so that would be probably a low entry point. Maybe we'll collect all the $5,000 pieces. And so we're trying to make this do like a lot of the heavy lifting, like pick companies that most women can say, I get what they're doing. I want that product. Like think Spanx. I want that product. So they want a piece of the action, but also they want that company to exist. And they will use the product, and they will be the biggest advocates for that. It's very, very powerful. And that is actually something that women bring to the table. When I look at investment opportunities, and I'm on these panels with guys, and the guys are like, would I use that product? Do I want that product? Like Fred Wilson says, I would never invest in a company if I'm not going to use that product. Well, what does that mean? That means anything that's for women, forget it. But so if you think about that, women actually are in the best position to know what they want.
And not only what they want for women, but also for men.
Because they buy all this stuff.
You buy all this stuff for the men. Exactly. It's one of those kind of things where it cuts across the gender and the household buying and all of those different kind of things. Yeah.
So you said it's 11.2 trillion. That's just not
11.2 trillion in investable assets is controlled by
and another 5 companies.
So it's not that it's not necessarily, but it's not that there's all things where women influence money, but this is actually money that women have earned, whether they through their earnings, through inheritances, but they actually control that amount of money.
And so they're not working with financial advisors?
Wall Street, so Andrea Turner-Moffat, who is Deborah's partner, wrote this book. Well, it started out as a study with the Center for Talent Innovation, and she released it earlier this year as a book called Harnessing the Power of the Purse. And she went, and so all the major banks, so all the top investment banks and Bloomberg and all of these major companies, because they've recognized that they have an issue attracting female clientele. And retaining them and getting traction amongst the female base. So they commissioned this study to go understand, well, what are women doing? Where is women's money? And how are they controlling it? And they looked at the U.S. and Asia, they did an international study. And the findings are really interesting. It was showing that, the level of once that they control, and then even of the household, the women are doing the majority of the movement of the funds and controlling where it's being spent. And so they're like, well, if we know that women are controlling, why are we not able to access them. And then sometimes I think back to like when you sit with a financial advisor and they just start throwing out all the like technical blah, 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 blahs, and you like eyes glaze over. That's not the way to connect necessarily. So when you talk to a lot of women, they're like, I want to invest in something that has an impact, that has meaning, that I'm not going to feel like I just like, you know, sold my child down the river to make this return. And I think banks are trying to now figure out how to capture that, but I think that women are in a prime position to be creating the platforms that will meet the needs of what we're not seeing. You know, so
I agree. And I have to tell you, I am a financial advisor, and I find it very interesting what you're saying, of course. And it's a real challenge. I have to tell you, looking for investments that really make an impact. And I happen to work for Merrill Lynch. And it's a real challenge. I mean, even when you go to the green funds, right? Mm-hmm. You know, they all have ACL, for example, heavily weighted inside of them because they need to have something to get the returns. Now, though, we're seeing a rise in consciousness. We're seeing a rise in demand for connection and community. And I actually have a healthcare focus in what I do. I'm very mission-driven, and I fell into this line of work after a long career on the institutional side. I had health issues that I conquered. I can't justify managing someone's money unless I'm serving them as a distinct resource for caregivers, for mature adults, because life does not end at 40. It keeps going. And so, you know, I think it really comes down to our buying patterns.
Oh, the questions are coming.
How do you identify the companies that you champion and that you're putting out there as investment opportunities?
So we have, you know, we've been in this sort of, in the trenches of women entrepreneurs for several years. So we have a lot of connections at all the kind of organized, like Springboard and SDF and Golden Seeds. And so we have all those feeders that are coming in. We have connections with venture capital firms. We support a lot of, I mean, we have no trouble. We haven't even announced, and we're getting, you know, companies, women saying, oh, you got to check out this company. Women that are signing up to be members are saying, oh, wait, you got to talk to this company. So we have this massive, you know, pipeline that is coming in. And so the challenge is knowing what we're looking for and how to make the match. So that's ongoing. We've engaged certain experts with domain expertise. We have some venture capital people. So we have all the right ingredients, and so that's what, you know, is going to happen over the next couple of months. We're because we're just out of the gate here. So our first event is a showcase event is in November, and it's for our members only. And we are determined that those companies that we select, and we will be very careful in the beginning, that those companies are going to be rockstar companies. So, because we have a lot of first-time people thinking about investing, so they have to see great companies, and they have to hear from great experts. And so that is our goal. But it's totally attainable. I mean, we're every day putting a piece of that puzzle together.
And it's been so cool to see the response from both women and men that are, when you tell them what the thing is, and they're like, I get it. And it's been really fantastic to see that being like, I want to be a part of something like that. And I think one of the things that resonated with me is the part of teaching and helping you understand, well, here's what success looks like. Here's what I need to be thinking about. If I'm an entrepreneur and think one day I might want to raise capital, here's what.
And like I know Golden Seeds, they have sort of, you have to be an accredited investor, and things like that. Is that applied here, or is it just a membership fee? Or
it's a membership fee, and it's $1,000 for a year. And the membership fee allows you access. You can come to our events. We have a closed section on the website, so it's for our members only. We're working on content that we will give you, and you will see these opportunities to invest. And we're having in-person showcases, but they're very different from any event I've ever been to. It's not like a pitch thing. You know, it's not like Shark Tank where you give 2 sentences. These are actually educational, but they're they're meant to be fun, educational. So it will be, you can see a real live company that's a really freaking cool company, and then you can see, wow, this is why this person says that's good. And not too much, just enough. You meet very cool women, you see great companies, and then you can go home and decide. And if you want to participate in bigger ways, you can do that too. But it's women are hungry for this, and they're smart. You just have to show them interesting opportunities, and they're busy, so you have to find them and curate them and serve them up. But women are really smart, and what I've seen happen over time with my own investing and watching other women emerge as investors, there's this point, like after a couple of meetings or times when they think about investing, and all of a sudden then it's like, I can do this. What? This is so, I can do this. Oh my gosh, I know more. And especially if you go to any of these like panels with venture capitalists. You know, the first time I was invited to be on a panel with 5 big VCs, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I can really hold my own. And then I'm like, we're seeing companies and they're making comments. And I'm thinking in my head, that is the dumbest thing I've heard. I thought to myself, we underestimate what we know, especially if it's a product for a woman. Like, we get things. No guy would fund that. They were all like, I'm not, funding.
And that's why she's a billionaire and owns the entire thing still.
I know. Like, all these guys were going, hey, like, look, if I'm going to invest in an underwear company, it's going to be sexy lingerie. That. So, but women got it. So that's the thing that I love this because it's 2 goals. It's getting money to great women, and it's getting women off the sidelines. And that's the only way we're going to change the world. We're not going to just change the world with great women entrepreneurs because they're not getting the capital. They're getting choked off. And they're dying. Good companies, because they're not getting the capital. So, that's not going to work. We need both pieces of this. We need that money. And we need women to understand that great company that woman started. And that's a product she wants. And the female market is the biggest mass market. It's not a niche market. It's we're over, and we control all the spending for our families. We make the decisions at the end on cars, consumer products, healthcare, education, food, clothing. We control all of that. So why shouldn't, the companies that are being funded be about companies that are creating products women actually want? Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a car that had a place for your handbag? Why is this? Because guys are building cars for guys, but yet women, you spend more time driving cars because they drive their families and this and that, and their kids and all that. And so, why is it there's a place for the beverage, a place for the guy's wallet, and the keys, and every woman I know, they get in the car, it's on the passenger seat, on the floor, in the back seat, they're reaching back here. It's like, that was designed by guys for guys, and women are the primary consumers. So just imagine if you just turn that on its head and say, what if we designed the car we wanted? How cool would that be? Would it be pink? But, it could be leopard. It's like, wait, if we think about, I'm obsessed now with the Apple Watch because I'm watching it fail. I don't know if it will fail, but it's like all this big fanfare, it's out there, and all these people have to have one, and then all of a sudden they're going, oh, sales aren't as good as we thought, what's going on? Oh my gosh, we're missing the female market. They're marketing like crazy to women, buy our watch, buy our watch. Well, that is a product created by guys for guys. It's it's just not good. What do you want? You want all that junk? It's like wearing a calculator in your hand. I don't want that. I want something. I know I want something, but it's got to be fashionable, and it's got to be cool.
It's the 20 grand version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to read
So many of these products are not. So if you had a woman founding a company who said, I understand the pain points that women have. I'll create a product to sell that, or I have these pain points. That's what we need. We need to have these, and also women create different kinds of companies. Women, by and large, are totally changing advertising, and totally changing corporate culture in companies they have. And we won't see what that really means or how that manifests itself, or quite some time. Somebody will study and probably get it wrong, but it is. Women are really different. And it's really good. It's really good. We have different brains. You got to read this book if you haven't read it. It's called The Female Brain, Dr. William Brisbane. We're totally different, and we should be. And I would even argue, don't let any man hear this, but the female brain is actually really better because the female brain can process forward 10 to 15 steps. The male brain can't. It can maybe go 5 steps. So what does that mean? Men don't assess risk the same way. We can fast forward and we can say, well, wait, if you build that nuclear bomb, if this happens, if this person doesn't talk to that person and that, and then they hit there, and then we hit there, and they can fast forward 15 steps. And what is the ending? We have world destruction. Everybody dies. We can't go there. So they pull back. Men, 3 scenarios. Okay, they get out their weapons. We'll get out ours. And they go 5 steps. I'm that's not so bad. Because they can't go forward. It's why every woman, the female brain is why every woman can multitask. We are hardwired. Our brain, we are built to multitask. We have to manage our children, cooking dinner, worrying about the family holiday, our
and
jobs.
Also running multi-million-dollar companies,
the birthday party, oh, I love those shoes. Oh, Mary's birthday's coming up. That is the female brain. It's hardwired that way. It's why we can do all these things. It's why. And do you know any man that can multitask really?
I was literally just having this conversation on the way over here talking to my cousin. She just had a baby and she is a doctor, neurosurgeon. She's multitasking. Her husband literally cannot do 2 things at once, and I completely agree. My husband cannot.
Why is that?
I think it's literally their brain. They cannot do that. They can't process. But
it's so confusing to me. When I think about hiring, sometimes I'm I don't want to bring guys because I know they're not going to be able to juggle the same number of balls.
No, you have to juggle balls, and the problem, not only that, for a marriage, it is so difficult because you have a conversation with them. And you're well, we can't invite so-and-so and so-and-so and we can't put all these things together. And they, can't even, project exactly what's going to happen. But we can see, and we can see all the scenarios.
So bizarre.
But the multitasking, I completely agree. It's really, it's painful to be a part of. It's painful to.
Yes. The female brain. And no one studies it, no one talks about it, but it's profound. We all know these women. We all know we can multitask. The thought of not multitasking,
you get bored.
I have a comment fallback question. The first comment is I was this is so good. This could be a TED Talk. And then I was why is it called TED Talks? Maybe we should call it Deborah Talks. We'll form a female discussion group. And so the question is, I know you're going to do some editing, but are these going to be available? Because I feel what you've talked about has ignited, I feel something from this that's I want to listen to it again.
Yeah, no, yes, there'll be some edited, but it'll go up. Parts of it will go up. Yeah.
I have a quick question on the product itself. You said it was mainly structured as a loan or note. What with the job site, shouldn't you be able to have investment in equities as well, or next to it, or as an alternative?
Well, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. Just like certain companies, when you're a cash flow positive company, it's going to make sense for you to be a debt, a company that will get structured a fixed income product like a bond, a note, all of those.
If you say that the company is going to 50x, for example, you're not going to 50x your note.
Exactly. And so for there's a spectrum. So a company that's not really generating the cash, but has the potential down the line, that's why people are doing equity, because you literally would not get your money back in 3 years because they're using that money to build the run rate and to get the products and build out their staff.
So you can get both.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you work with the investor, the entrepreneur? So in addition to them obviously getting the money,
how do you work with removing barriers, bringing top talent, bringing experts to them, of really being the support and not only the money giver?
Yeah. So this is a big issue because obviously you need money. You can't survive if you don't have money. But there's so many things these companies need. And so we're pretty focused on, the next 6 months to a year. But we have been getting from entrepreneurs and our first investors. I had 2 meetings today. These women are wildly successful women in corporate America. Said, well, wait, of course I want the best, but what I really want to do, I know all about manufacturing in China. I want to tell that to some woman entrepreneur. And so it's like, we have these 2 pieces that we could connect. We cannot do that in the first 6 months or a year.
So that's 2.0.
That's 2.0. That is 2.0 because there are tons of women that have the means, have the corporate experience, and want to give back. And they're retiring and they're miserable. They're like, I don't know what to do with their energy.
Seriously, yeah, I get called upon by so many women that are 50 plus that are like, I had a whole career and, I want to do more. Like, and they are a great resource, really.
So that is 2.0. Mm-hmm. That is 2.0.
Denise?
Yeah, so I was wondering, I think part of, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but part of what I find a little bit daunting about investing is that there's so much noise when it comes to investing your money, and so there is a tendency to kind of withdraw because you just don't know where to go and who to trust. And there's experts and gurus all around. There's no shortage of those folks. And so kind of what do you recommend in terms of a primer for beginning investors?
And you're talking about like public market stuff, stocks and bonds.
Yes.
Gosh, it's interesting. I have $2 and I'm always giving them this advice, and I honestly can't think of one thing I really recommend. Isn't that tragic? Here's a female founded company with could probably answer that better than I. Exactly. And that's what she's built. So it really isn't out there. I do think if you are like an early investor, honestly, I would recommend Wealthfront. It's a platform, very low fees. It invests in ETFs that kind of just follow the market. So you won't make a lot of money, but you won't lose a lot of money. You'll kind of be consistent with the market. So, what do you think? You've been on.
Well, I think.
How do you approach this?
I think part of it, some of the things it starts off with is starting with something that you want to go, because you'll need to learn a lot about it, or go deep in something. So I think thinking about areas and sectors that you really truly care about is one of the places to start, because that's where you find yourself Googling about it all the time anyways. So if you know that you're going to enjoy reading about that sector to begin with, then going really deep to then peel the layer behind to see what's going on with the companies behind it won't be a chore. So I think that's kind of a good place to start, and something that you kind of generally care about to begin with, and then looking for, when you're looking at publicly traded, looking and digging a little deeper behind those companies. Because I wouldn't say if you're into the arts, go start looking at biotech, because you're just going to be like, what is this? So don't go for something that you don't know to begin with. Go try to go into an area, like you love education. Ed tech and all of those, I think you would actually enjoy researching what's coming out in the education space from a publicly traded company. Look at what Pearson is doing. Pearson just sold off the Financial Times because they want to position themselves to really 80% of their business is education driven. So, and they're a mission-based company. So maybe you go read a little bit deeper about what does that mean. Who knew that they run schools in South Africa and South America? They are doing that. In addition to running the Economist and the FT, that's what they're doing, and they're selling off the ones that aren't making them the money and focusing on that. So try going in an area that you care about generally, because that's what you have a passion for, and digging deeper for the publicly traded companies that are there. And then when you're thinking about early stage companies, what is the pain point in that market? And if you're seeing people that come through with products, you can be like, will that really address the need? Because again, you have that kind of desire, expertise in that sector. So you can look at them at the beginning, and then you can look at them at the publicly traded and go deep without being afraid.
Do you see this? I mean, I guess my question when someone asks me where, I get that question a lot. Where should I put my money? And my first question is usually a question back, which is, is this play money that you're talking about, or is this your first time investing and you're trying to build for a nest egg for yourself, or are you trying to build because you want that new boat, or you're trying to build that second house, or you're trying to go to school for something? What is the purpose for you first? Because you have to have your own financial health and house in order before you come into a risky investment, and these are risky investments. I would say
some of the loans are not.
Okay. They are revenue generating companies, which is great.
Yeah.
But to that point, anytime you go and play in securities markets, there is some level of risk, short of a CD, which is like a 0.01 return. And so that's part of to that point and that's why part of the things that you can't just go invest in. You have to be an accredited investor, and that means net asset of $1 million, or have made $300,000 a year for the past few years as a household income. And so that's what the Job Act is actually looking to possibly remove that classification, so that people beyond, and then it's something like up to 5% of your general income you can now invest. So it would remove that from an equities perspective. But
even people that do it as their day job, it's not easy. And that's what I feel is part of the problem with investing and Wall Street and wealth advisors and all this. Somehow we need to empower people so they can make their own decisions. I say this to women entrepreneurs. If you have a 401k, if you have money in a savings account or a checking account, you are an investor already. You are already an investor. You're making decisions about where your money gets spent. And we need to own it. We need to actually, here we are in 2015. This is the next generation of the women's movement or something. It's wait, we have jobs. We have money. We have a lot of money. We control a lot of money. So wait a second. We are investors. And you know what? We invest in charity and philanthropy and all this kind of stuff. We should also invest in ways to make more money. Because the unit, you probably know this, you survey women and what do they care about? They're fearful. They're fearful they won't have a roof over their head. Totally. That is a big fear. And you know what? If you don't have the tools and don't feel confident owning and investing your money, you might actually get there. The best way you can protect yourself from that fear is to be in the driver's seat and know and make sure that your money is invested smartly and you are not going to lose with inflation. Whatever you have. If it's in your freaking savings account, you're losing. You're losing ground. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And it's what we know how to do anyway. You should just do it and own it and have fun with it. Investing is fun. There's nothing better.
More fun than spending.
Getting that check in the mail from some freaking investment you made, I just got $1,000, free money or something, but it's actually investing is really fun and it's very satisfying. It's very empowering, and it's also using all the skills women have. We don't take crazy risks. We can project forward. We see products we want. We see women that we think should be elevated. It's consistent with our beliefs. It's making the world better. Everything.